Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for the Q&A of A Shot Through the Wall. I'm very excited to have Amy Long here with us today. She's the director, writer, and co-producer of this movie. So excited to just kind of dive into why she wanted to make this movie and everything like that. Before we get started, I do want to remind everyone to rate the movies whenever you're done watching them. It's going to help us determine an audience award at the end of the week. So remember to do that. And then I also wanted to thank our major sponsors, as well as the sponsors for this film, the Coastal Awakening through the Shambrum Family Foundation. So thank you to all of our sponsors. We could not pull this festival off without you. Thank you, thank you. Okay, Amy, do you want to just kind of give a brief intro of who you are and your inspiration behind making this movie and kind of how this all got started?
Sure. My name is Amy Long. I'm the writer-director for A Shot Through the Wall. And thank you so much, first of all, for having us.
Yeah.
I was here with a short film. I think this is about 10 years ago, 2011.
Wow.
And I'm so happy to be back here again. I wish I was seeing this in a theater with audience and stuff. But yeah, I'm glad we're watching this safe at home. So yeah,
Totally.
thank you so much for having me.
Yes, of course.
My inspirations for this film. So this is my first feature, and it's been a long time coming. and so I think in 2014 there was an incident where there was an Asian American cop who accidentally killed an innocent Black man in the projects in New York, in Brooklyn. And he was the first cop that was indicted in 12 years. This is right after Eric Garner and Mike Brown. And I thought this incident was interesting. I'm an Asian American myself. I remember going home for dinner. I am from the Bay Area. I live in New York City most of the time, and when I went home, there was a heated debate at dinner table. There was a big dinner with my friends and family, and half of the people were talking about how whether this cop was scapegoated. The other half was talking about how I mean, this is justice because we shouldn't be asking for the same white privilege that the other cops who were, who are using excessive police force.
Right.
And I thought this was an interesting incident to explore who I am, where I stand as an Asian American person. And so yeah, this is inspired by the incident, but it's I took a lot of artistic liberties. It has nothing to do with the actual incident itself. But yeah, so that's where it came about.
Cool. I did want to ask, just out of curiosity, what made you put the the very first scene, that's the mom doing the egg thing for the son?
Yes.
Why preface it with that? Why kind of start it with that and go backwards and then relive that?
I think I wanted I wanted that relationship, right? So the film to me is really about his relationship with his family and the people who is left behind. Because I think when these incidents happen, we really, in the news and everything, it's really easy to politicize it and picking a side and placing blames and things like that. But it really is the people who gets left behind, and um, you really see the mother who lost their son and all these other things that we don't think about when we see a news story like this. But yeah.
I think that's a really powerful of the visual at the very end with both mothers who had, kind of gone through the same situation, kind of. That was really just powerful look into like just that whole dynamic. And talking about just, the debates that go on and then all of that, how has the public seeing this movie, how have they responded to the film, just with all of the recent, events that have happened this year and everything like that? How has the response been with this movie?
So when we made the film, we thought this whole thing will have gone away. When I wrote the film, I thought, 5 years later, this whole thing is gonna go away. And unfortunately, it became more relevant than ever.
Okay.
And I mean, last year we realized, oh my, this is I mean, the senseless killing needs to stop. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
This is what the ending was supposed to say. We premiered during this pandemic, and I never gotten a chance to actually see it with the audience. But when we were in post production, we did a few test screenings, which was really interesting because in when we did these test screenings, people really start a heated debate about the subject. That's exactly what I wanted to do with this film, because I think to there's a problem out there, and the first, I don't have all the answers, but the first step to solving a problem is acknowledging there's a problem and people start to talk about it. And I
Totally.
think it's really, I'm, as much as it's such a terrible time when these things are happening again and then again. And but there's something to take comfort in, that people are starting to actually talking about such a
Totally.
problem,
Totally.
about excessive police force, about defunding the police, and all these things that needs to happen when we need to start solving a problem. So
Totally.
yeah.
Totally. I'm curious why you decided to do it from the perspective of the police officer instead of a more broad, or from the victim's perspective. Why did you choose the perspective of the police?
Sure. I think the answer is really easy because I am Asian American. I was just curious about him, about his family, as an immigrant,
Right.
myself, and I just thought I wanted to explore the nuance of what happened afterwards, and um, also I thought it was people always say, write about what you know. I actually just the Asian American perspective of it. So yeah.
I'm curious because you had a very diverse cast, and I'm wondering what the dynamic was like on set in the day that you did do the shooting scene. I'm wondering if that sparked anything, or if that was kind of a hard day on set, or how was that?
It was a really hard. It was a really tough day, heavy day. So in the beginning, we actually didn't. So my intention in the beginning was to start the movie after the shooting happened, because when we see news stories over and over again, and when these things happen, we never see what happened
Right.
then, right? And then we did a lot of test screenings, and we went into post without it. And then we realized, I think it was important to show what had happened. And then we went back to do a pickup for that, for that incident. And then and we had a really diverse crew as well, and that day was a really tough day. I remember we shot everything on location. We shot in Washington Heights in New York, and when they were when they were chasing the boy down the street, I remember this lady came to us. She didn't realize that was a film shoot. And this lady who came up to us and was like, "This is wrong. This is so wrong. You only chase the black kids." And and she was so angry, and it really, it was painful to I never intended to re-traumatize anybody, and it was really tough to watch. Even just behind a monitor, it was really tough to watch. And then inside the building, when we shot the scene where they were trying to attempt CPR, Michelle Wilson, who was playing the mother, she was so good. She put a lot of people to tears, myself included. I remember after that scene, she came to me and she gave me a big hug. And it was something I think I will take with me for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
And it was really powerful, and it was really powerful to watch, to go through, to watch it, and you realize the impact these things have on people. And yeah, so yeah, and it's time for us to do something, to say something. And yeah, so
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And do you have any just kind of final thoughts on the film as a whole, or how people, what are the next steps? What do you want this movie to, spark in people, just to keep the conversation going, or
yes, definitely. I would love for people to keep the conversation going. I think it's, it's really important to explore different perspectives, and I think it's really important to explore the issue itself. I don't have on any of the answers, but I really think it's important to talk about what we what what's happening in this country, and the things that's broken, that needs to be fixed.
yeah,
So yeah, no, thank you so much for having us
absolutely.
and showcasing this film. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking the time. Do you have maybe just one happy moment on set that we can end this on, like a fun note?
Yes, there were many happy moments on set too.
Be a good one.
When Yeah, so that dinner scene with all the family, and then we brought in so much food, and and then all my cast start eating the food. And at one point we were asking them to we have to stop eating all the food. And I think it was late at night, we can't reproduce all the food. And yeah, and it was a really nice moment to see everybody sitting together and eating. And this is how, we, as me as the Asian American, or my family, show love. And we just feed each other and have a big, dinner. We do everything surrounding food. So yeah, so that was one moment I always will remember as a really happy moment on set. And it was just like, we were, setting up these cameras, and then it was just, the smell was so good. And I think that day, Ty Mom, one of the actors, he's amazing. He that night he got everybody snacks, late night snacks from like Chinese takeouts. It was really great. So yes.
I mean, and such an amazing cast too, with Saima and the mom. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but
Fiona. Yeah,
yeah,
Fiona Fu. She was very, very good. She is very powerful. I love her performance. I got very lucky with a really great cast.
yeah.
So
So
yeah.
well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm so thank you just for taking the time to kind of do this Q&A and just talk through your sentiment and your reasoning for wanting to make this film and the response it's gotten and everything. So thank you. And thank you to our sponsors also. Once again, BHE Renewables, American General Media, and KSBY TV, as well as the Coastal Awakening through the Shambrom Family Foundation. So thank you to all the sponsors. And thank you, Amy.